Hi everyone, Wesley here. I've been thinking about how to bring something fresh to the Standard Age podcast. After all, what began as a weekly show soon became only twice a month during COVID. That workflow worked well as it was less stressful with fewer deadlines, but as I gained speed in the editing process and things on the apparel side became more streamlined, I felt I could introduce some special episodes. This was actually why the pit stops were born. Though I've meant to do more of those, they seem to be more along the lines of a seasonal thing, so I plan to do more of those this year while also creating this new series. This is the Standard Age Roundtable. Conversations with friends about the things we love, a less formal approach to a podcast, primarily sharing our passions for cars and watches and our experiences with them. This series couldn't feel further from an interview. These episodes will host no fewer than 3 people, including myself, some previous podcast guests, and even host some new names not unlike this first episode. I hope you enjoy these, and I'd love your feedback on the format. Welcome to the Roundtable. Gentlemen, I'm super excited to host both of you on what is now a new episode series within Standard Age called the Standard Age Roundtable. Now, for those of you listening at home, what this is several people, less of an interview, more of a discussion, even though typical episodes are hopefully feeling more like discussions. This is something to explore a little bit more of like a community vibe, a little bit more of a cars and coffee, but sitting at a table type of situation. So welcome to the Standard Age Roundtable. Today hosts Wes Wynn from the Collector's Corner, New York, also former podcast guest. Wes, how's it going?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And then to my right here in my kitchen is none other than Raymond Milnarek of Oliver and Clark. Some of you, many of you, may know him from their videos on Instagram. Of course, his expertise and watch prowess, I would say, in the vintage world specifically. Raymond, good to have you in the house, literally.
In the house, literally. That's a very kind introduction. Happy to be here.
So we're going to talk cars. We're going to talk watches. We're going to talk journeys. We're going to talk hot takes. We're going to talk shopping and searching and hunting. That's what these episodes are all about. And given that it is a roundtable format, I feel like the best way to do this is maybe either clockwise or counterclockwise. You guys make that call. I don't know. Or just jump in. But as far as the first segment goes, I wanted to talk about maintenance. And with regard to maintenance, what does that mean? Changes being made to either your cars or your watches. Are you swapping straps? Did you get a new bracelet? Things like that. Wes, why don't we kick it off? Why don't we just do this in clockwise formation?
Cool. Happy to. So this year I'm kind of working on a couple of cars, maintenance wise. I am trying to kind of refresh my E39 as much as possible. And actually Raymond was sort of the inspiration for this after he saw my car. So I did the timing chain guides. That's kind of the big mechanical thing to get done. Put steel brake lines in, sandblasted and repainted the brake calipers. A lot of mechanical stuff was done. Already got it paint corrected and ceramic coated, PPF the front half, etc. I've actually been doing a lot of research. Shout out to E39 Source there in San Diego, watching a lot of their videos on YouTube. And I actually called Ryan Schultz, the guy that owns this place, and he said it's getting a lot harder to find parts for E39s, and they're starting to get very expensive. So my plan this spring is to just freshen up the car from a trim standpoint as much as possible. We looked up the VIN. It's Vinova wood. So, I have a cracked piece of wood like next to the steering wheel. We're rewrapping the steering wheel with M stitching, putting the Eurospec headlights in, which I'm very excited for. The headlights are 21 years old and they're looking kind of foggy. So that really cleans up the car. They don't have the orange corners either. What else? We've done gaskets on the front windshield, rear windshield, all these things that kind of freshen up the car and make the user experience for someone who appreciates condition, I think is huge on these things. The driver's seat is a little bit tired looking, so we're going to respray the driver's seat. But yeah, really, really thrilled to get that in order. Also doing a little bit on the 911 Turbo this spring. I have Dan Mealy, who's a pretty well-known paint person at Autostrada, working on that right now. And he's going to be like doing a light paint correction on the car, PPF on the front, and just make it really reliable, essentially, from a paint standpoint for the next decade or so. So looking forward to that.
So people listening at home, what are the specs of these two cars so they can kind of picture what you're talking about?
The E39 is black over tan, and it's called sand beige technically.
Oh, wow.
And then the 911 Turbo is GT silver over sand beige.
Oh, so the same interior color.
Yes,
That's interesting.
I'm a big beige baby.
They are, in fact, a little different. I don't think you've seen Wes's E39, but it is a little bit. BMW Sand Beige is, in fact, a little more sand color rather than Porsche's, which kind of has a hint of orange in there.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of like a light tan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very pretty car, and you say I was possibly the impetus behind pouring a little bit more money into it. I hope I wasn't the sole reason for that, but it is already, to be clear, an exceptional E39, especially that's a non M5. It's a very, very clean top spec 5 Series, of which I am a huge fan.
Yeah. What wheels are on that car, Wes?
So it has the 5-spoke wheels. Those would only come on the M Sport. So it's an '03 M Sport, final year of production. And I actually did something else this week that I'm curious to know if you'll approve, but I put the M badges on the sides of the car as well, because the European spec M Sports had those. And we thought it looks a lot sportier with that. I would love if it was an M5, but frankly, having another manual car, it's like perfect having this being an auto kind of cruiser thing. And
Totally.
my long-term plan for the car is to probably make it a weekend car in the next 3 to 4 years and just try to baby it even more. I forgot to mention the wheels were refinished on the E39. That really helped elevate the car. And I think any car, like refinishing wheels and doing headlights, that's going to freshen it up the most out of anything, right?
Sorry to interrupt. What does it cost to refinish wheels for because I may want to do that actually on my Volkswagen.
Sure. I think it's probably $250 a wheel, something like that, depending on the shop. And they look factory fresh. They can true them again, all that. And I forgot to mention, I actually did the same thing as you, Wesley. I'm getting the updated head unit for the 911.
Smart.
Make it look a lot cleaner. There's the sticky button issue on the climate control. Very cheap fix, but that helps make things look cleaner too in the cabin.
Yes, Suncoast Porsche in Florida is where you want to go for anything like that. They have a very robust e-commerce platform, so anybody with an older Porsche, you could, unless you have like an insanely good relationship at your dealership locally, Suncoast has a very robust e-commerce. So, and pretty much everything on there is 15% less than retail. So you may have to pay shipping. I can't remember if there's a threshold you meet for free shipping, but at any rate, it's really helpful. I've ordered pretty much everything for my car from them.
Very cool.
Including my keychain. But yeah, so check them out. And
thank you.
You'll pay less for that head unit, which is not insignificant.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll mention from a cosmetic standpoint on the 911 is that it had an antenna from factory. And it is the ugliest thing I think I've ever seen on a Porsche. So we're deleting it. And it's funny, if you look at like .1 versus .2, they seem to have fixed the problem. They call it the wart. It's like this little nub thing that goes over the back of it. Whereas mine has this like black thing that's sticking out and protruding on the roof of the car and really kind of ruins the lines of the car, in my opinion. So we're solving that. And it's funny, I mean, you looked at a 911 part and it was like $500 for the part.
Yeah.
And we figured out that you can buy the Macan version of it. I think I paid like $50 for the thing. So found it in GT silver and good to go.
Amazing. Wow. All right. Well, Raymond, you're up to bat here with the maintenance.
Oh boy.
Well, what's the car, first of all?
So there's two cars at the moment. Two cars that have been very dependable for me, and I would say both have a reputation for their dependability. First being the 87 E28 5 Series. It's a 535 IS. The engine in this car has been really, really, we're sitting here at a wood table. I'm knocking on it. It's an M30 engine. It was produced for about 30 years, and it's widely credited as being one of BMW's strongest engines in their entire history, as what to me has always been an engine manufacturer. It's been very nice. What I'm doing now is kind of putting the finishing touches on a 5-year ownership with a couple. There's a seat panel, and we're talking a plastic cover basically for the hinge on the driver's seat that I'm looking for. It is these are Sport Recaros in the IS spec, and they're quite difficult to come by. Most of these were also in black. Mine happened to be it's called pearl beige, and it's a very difficult part to find. We're literally talking about a plastic cover here, but it's giving me quite a bit of trouble, so I'm finding that. The cruise control doesn't work on the car, and that's just about it. Otherwise, this thing is pretty dialed, but I'm looking for that part, and I'm going to also be looking into upgrading the brakes. E28s were, while they work and they function, they were, a lot of people upgrade them to E34, so the subsequent 5 Series brakes, and oftentimes 540 or M5 brakes. So I'll be looking into doing that. I had the car up on Angeles Crest yesterday morning, and while I don't drive that car 10 tenths up there, I really kind of cap it at like 7 tenths. It is a 40-year-old 5 Series after all, that is basically stock. It would make me feel better to have some more effective brakes at doing that kind of stuff and I'm doing that at least a few times a month. So
I'm assuming the brakes on your car currently are vented or something that's fairly.
They're vented
modern?
Rotors. Yeah, that's it though. I mean, stock caliper pads.
Would you be upgrading to like a cross drilled situation or?
Yeah, I'd probably do the rotors, but more importantly, the size of the caliper and
sure.
some better pads. I think I upgraded the pads when I first got the thing 5 years ago. But I've put 15,000 miles on the car. The pads are fine. Like I said, it's just the feel and more of a kind of security in my own mind type of thing.
Sure.
The other thing is the other car is a Lexus GX. It's a first model year, second generation GX. It's a GX 460 2010. I just did 4 new tires on it. First thing I did when I got that car within probably the first week was put all-terrain tires on it.
Yes.
And I dropped what I call soccer mom running boards down and chopped them. So you measure them out. I think it was 6 inches in the front, 3 in the rear, something like that. And then you kind of bevel off the cut, and it looks really clean. Nice. Looks like how I think it should have from the factory. And so I put big tires on. I've just gone through a full life cycle. I put new ones on. This kind of ties into a later segment that I think you had in mind for us, but I might consider selling the car. But for now, I just got it back with these new tires, and it's great. So no real issues, just little things.
Awesome. What about watches? Did either of you have any watch news as far as maintenance goes of what you already own?
It's funny. Watches is kind of cars is kind of how I got into watches. I mean, like so many of us, but I was sick of car maintenance, and I moved to a place where I couldn't really have cars, or at least the cars that I wanted anymore. And that's kind of where, I focused my mental bandwidth ended up being watches.
Sure.
They're a lot easier, but I do have a watch getting serviced right now. It's about a 70-year-old Movado chronograph.
Oh, sick.
Pretty difficult to find parts for, but that's kind of on the home stretch. But that's the only watch that I have getting serviced right now, personally.
Who's doing that work?
That's my friend Harris Friedman of NYC Watchmaking in upstate New York. Go way back with him. He's also become quite the car guy. He's got an old 3 Series, and he's an Alfa Romeo owner, so he's really in it.
What about you, Wes?
Well, funny you mentioned Harris, because I actually leaned on Harris to help me with a few things. My Land Rover signed Hamilton I gave to him because he actually knows the movement in that watch. It's a little bit of a tricky movement to service. So he did that. He stabilized the hands, which are like a cathedral style, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm currently still working on my Land Rover Hamilton article. I have not been able to find another person that owns one. I kind of wanted to release it with having more intel, but at this point, it's more of a mystery than anything. But yeah, he also did like stabilization on my other Hamiltons. I have a LL Bean signed one. I have an Orvis signed one. The Orvis is interesting because I've only had a handful in my dealing career, and this one was really clean, so I had to keep the trio there. But not too much else. I mean, I try not to over service my watches. My Daytona is starting to get a little bit sticky. I might have to actually service that Zenith Daytona at some point. But other than that, I just try to pressure test stuff, make sure that it's water resistant, and really just enjoying my collection right now, not looking for a whole lot, but we can get to what we might be hunting in a bit.
Yeah. When you say sticky, are you talking about the pushers to activate the chronograph?
More just to wind the watch manually. It's a little bit stiff right now.
Got
And
it.
I think I don't think the watch has ever been serviced. I opened the case back. The movement's a little bit dry. You know, it's 24 years old now. So
Yeah.
it's probably due for a service.
This is your P serial, is that right? You have a P serial Zenith? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what are you guys' thoughts on not servicing watches unless there's an issue? Because like you hear about these folks who like have a sub for 28 years, never sending it in.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. I think that you probably should service your watch if you're going to wear it regularly because
Okay.
it's going to wear down the parts without oil. And
Sure.
especially for something like a Daytona, those parts are getting rare and difficult to source right now. But the intervals don't need to be like every 4 years. I think you can get away with every 8 to 10 years on most watches. And a lot of watchmakers are actually using synthetic oil now, which has a longer shelf life as well.
10W30.
Yeah. Ray, anything?
I would say pretty similarly. This Movado that I have, like that's probably a watch I'm going to keep up on every 4 or 5 years. It's a 75-year-old chronograph that's with a basically bespoke movement. That's a lot different than my ceramic Submariner, which is kind of my daily beater. I'm going on my 8th year with that. It keeps impeccable time. Now I have that thing in water 3 times a week. I do exactly what I tell my clients not to do, and that's, I'll take it in a sauna and cold plunge it after. It really has been able to take it, and I've done a lot with that watch, as you guys have probably both witnessed.
Yeah, I've seen it open many a beer bottle.
Yes, it's done that too, many a times. That's probably a watch that, when that watch was new and sold, Rolex's interval was 5 years recommended interval, and very shortly after that I think they bumped it up to about 10. I have no problem going a couple more years with that, but because of the frequency that I have it exposed to harsher environments and water, I probably should be getting that thing at least the gasket's done. And if that's the case, might as well just have it tuned up. It can't hurt. But I do think that, you have to service your watch every 3-4 years if there's nothing wrong with it, if the amplitude's good, etc., and it's keeping time. I really don't see a reason to over service a watch, just as you said, Wes.
Yeah, I have my IWC Portofino chronograph is 9 years old at this point. I've never had it serviced. Frankly speaking, it doesn't get the wrist time that it did 9 years ago, of course, due to additional watches entering the collection. But I guess in that same breath, like, should I take it? I mean, it's a Valjoux 7750, right? So like, do I need to take it to IWC? I doubt it. I mean, I could probably just take it to the folks who sold it to me, frankly.
I wouldn't take it to the manufacturer. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg.
Sure.
And the real answer is that you actually need to put a watch on a time grapher to understand how it is running truly, right?
Yeah.
That's going to give you the beat rate, the beat error, the rate, the amplitude, all that stuff. And it's like a doctor looking at the internals essentially to get the data. And when I retail a watch, I mean, I don't really retail anything until it's up to quote unquote retail spec in terms of how it's running.
Totally.
I would say after 9 years, your watch is probably ready for a service.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. What were you going to say, Raymond?
My thought would be specifically with that watch, having not worn it so much, getting the wrist time, it's sitting like an old car. These do want to be running. And I've heard a lot of debate within the watch kind of community about, is it bad to have your watch on a winder, or to sit, like which one's worse. For
Right.
cars, it's obviously sit. I personally feel the same about watches. I think that a watch running and lubricating itself, moving oils around, a chronograph, using it every now and then, I think is probably going to be good for it. Something that you've had for 9 years that's never been serviced is probably due for a service, particularly, and this is maybe just in my head, something with pusher, non-screw down pushers. To me, that just says there's more, it's easier to dry
Liability.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point. If you're going to store your watches in the bank or what have you, you don't want to leave them face down, because then you can have oils come onto the dial. I just pulled oil off this 1680 Submariner, and it was not a big deal, right? It's like a Q-tip pulls it off, but generally you want to store your watches face up.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, if they're sitting for a month, it's good to just go and wind them once a month.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, periodically I'll go into the safe and wind a bunch of them. None of them are face down, thank God. If anything, they're on their sides, but not face down. So, well, as far as my maintenance goes, God, boys, where do I start? Because with the 911 acquisition only 4 months in, I mean, I guess I could start there, because I got a license plate frame from 000. I got a couple stickers put on the car, one namely being a Shift logo sticker, of course. But yeah, I swapped the head unit, as we previously mentioned, mainly to give me like Waze and Apple CarPlay and phone capability in a way that, is just making it far more usable, to drive it more often, to take phone calls, driving the car, that kind of thing. Let's see, what else have I done to it? I got rubber floor mats thrown in instead of the carpeted ones. I'm just a big fan of rubber mats, just so I don't, to keep those other ones more pristine, really is the goal.
Sure.
And then I installed a 991 backup camera on the car. So
wow.
I exclusively back my 997 into my garage, and it's a game changer, obviously. Comes up on the LCD just fine. It's a Porsche part, so that's great. The other thing is when, Wes, you may think about doing this, maybe not.
Yep.
La Jolla Audio did all the work for me for the backup camera and the head unit, and they suggested, because I have an iPhone as opposed to Android, apparently the iPhone sometimes has trouble with that head unit during a phone call as far as volume is concerned.
Interesting.
So they recommended that I get quite literally an amplifier. So I had an amplifier installed in the car too, which was like, I think, an extra $200 or something like that.
Yeah.
So now, well, I mean, frankly speaking, now the music just sounds that much more incredible anyway. So yeah, all those little tweaks to the 911. Obviously, I finally got standard H plates put on the car yesterday.
Yes.
The DMV was a roller coaster, but got that over the line. The GTI, nothing. Nothing adding. I need to replace those rubber mats. I guess years of driving, when I was working at Allen Edmonds and Gucci and places like that, I would wear dress shoes, and those heels are so sharp it wore through the rubber mat. So my driver's side rubber mat is looking long in the tooth.
You ordered a plate for that car, didn't you, recently?
I did. So should I talk about it now or when it happened? I think it's another round table. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you put the backup cameras on so Terry could drive backwards all the time.
Well, well, Terry can't drive manual, so she's not driving at all, forward or backwards. But all good.
All that maintenance, Wesley, sounds an awful lot like additions compared to Wes.
Yeah, it's less
compared to
maintenance
Wes and
so
I.
far. And thank God the oil was changed in the 911 2 months before I bought it, so I got a while even before I need to take it in, really.
Yeah, I'd say 4 or 5 years at least.
Yeah. All right. So the next topic, what have you been hunting, or have you bought something recently? I'll start because I'll just go ahead and tell you. I mean, it was my 997. Since this is an episode 1 of the roundtable, I'll just get out of the way and you guys take it from here. Wes, what have you bought lately?
Sure. Well, look, we were all kind of hunting for 997s, and Ray, you're kind of on the spot if you're still looking for one.
Yeah.
I don't know, frankly, if you're looking for one at at this point still, but we can obviously help a homie. Yeah, so I was looking for my car for a long time. I've spoken about it this year already. Very happy with my dream spec 911. I actually purchased a Macan Turbo for my wife a little bit earlier last year and got a little bit lucky with that too. I feel like we found a 19,000 mile example that was like single owner, already had 20,000 mile service on it. The car was babied essentially. It had a really nice spec, like privacy glass and brown seats, all the kit and caboodle that she wanted, and she loves the car.
What's the external color? Sorry.
It's gray.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel very blessed. I mean, we've got like three of my absolute favorite cars, and I think the plan is just to try to enjoy these cars as long as possible. I do think my daily driver with the E39, that's going to kind of phase out at some point, as mentioned, right? So like that'll become a weekend car. I am thinking about doing like an F80 M3 with a manual transmission as a daily, maybe 3 years out from now. So I've been researching those. I think the market has bottomed on them, or will in the next 2 years. They feel like a great value in today's market. And in terms of spec, I mean, it'd be nice to get like a Silverstone exterior. I really like that color on that car because it's not gray, it's not silver. It's like a very, very light blue, and it really shows off the aggressive lines of the car. In terms of watches, I actually bought my last personal watch from Raymond here. That was a date 8. So thank you again, dude.
Oh, sick. What'd you get?
It's a white gold tropical. So it has a blue dial that tropicalized into this like crazy galaxy look to it. It's an unbelievably unique dial.
It's really incredible. Yeah. Special
I just
watch.
remember you sweating it a little bit, and I was like, man, that thing really, really caught my attention at the end of last year. Was always looking for a white gold date 8, and this was a really strong example in terms of the case condition and just the uniqueness of the dial.
I've always wanted a white gold day date, actually. Like, I mean, if I ever got one, it would certainly be white gold.
Yeah, they're very stealthy watches. They're very cool. And, you know, wear one on leather and it's kind of invisible.
Oh, God, yeah.
They have a very cool look to them. I think this, in particular, this blue tropical dial, that's really this kind of, as Wes said, this kind of cosmic kind of space look. It's really, really special. It's a cool watch. And I'm glad I know where it went. And I'm glad it went to you. It was a special piece.
I feel like the Onyx dials are something that I've always been gravitating towards. Did they ever do those in white gold? Because I've only seen them in yellow.
They did. There's quite a premium for a white gold
Oh,
Onyx.
of course. Story of my life. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, they're special watches. I've only handled a few.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, those stone dials, you got to be careful. I had one crack in a shipment last year, kind of devastating, frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I posted the date 8 yesterday on my Instagram, so you can check out the color of it. And it's just cool, right? Like Rolex wasn't making a dial in that shade of purple. So to get that over the decades, it's a very unique looking dial.
Yeah, I guess I saw your post. I didn't realize it was your personal watch.
And you would see 16808 Submariners with those blue dials. Bluesies kind of go to a little bit of a purple patina, but in a very even way. You'd even see them get into color, kind of shades of gold, like the brass kind of underplating, and green. But to see a date 8 do it in like this cosmic purple was really, really special.
Wow.
Thank you again, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
You mentioned the Macan. I guess I should say we got my wife a Q5 in January, which I'm pretty
cool.
pumped on. It's a white over black with, I don't know the wood. It's not walnut, but it is sort of a medium brown. So it's not like a white oak type of thing. It's a great car. We got it pre-owned.
Perfect.
It was like a lease turn in, 3 years old, 2022. And I mean, again, 15,000 miles. It was fresh. Like it still smells brand new. Somebody drove it 5,000 miles a year. I'm sure it went to, the grocery store and back or whatever.
Very cool.
So pumped on that. So Volkswagen Audi group, very well represented in our household. So
Love that.
hunting, Raymond.
Hunting. Oh boy. Well, I think at this point it's been told. You guys were, as I said earlier, you guys were on, Wes, you were on Wesley's podcast once before, but I guess, as a forward to this, we kind of all connected and got on this group chat. You guys met the same night. I was there. I was in New York, and we very quickly established that we were all in the early stages or maybe mid stages of hunting 997s. What spec? I don't think we even had established that, but we all started talking about that. We got on a group text, and that, the rest is history. Here we are. So yes, I am still hunting a 997. I have my eye on a few different cars. I did sell a personal watch, and I think I'm getting to the point where I'm ready. But yeah, I am actively hunting a 997. There are some other cars that I'm entertaining, and if the right one popped up, I would entertain it. I'm not in a rush, so I'm taking my time, but that is definitely something I'm hunting. There are no watches in my crosshairs whatsoever. I will also say that.
Oh yeah, I guess there's a watch that I haven't bought, but it is mine.
Interesting.
Confusingly. So for a while I've been hunting, which I've never talked about, although we've talked offline, I guess, Raymond, about a vintage tag, Heuer chronograph.
That's right.
And so I was debating, actually, I talked to Eric Wind about one. It was like a Mark II dial of an original Heuer. And then there's, what was it? The CS 3111, right?
3111. That's right. Yeah, it's the black dial reissue from like 95, 96. And that's a watch that I was telling you about it. I think you sent it to me and said thumbs up or thumbs down. I give those big thumbs up. I've kind of watched them creep up in the last 5-6 years, and they've really kind of become vintage watches. They're kind of neo-vintage a few years ago. I really think that for all intents and purposes, those are vintage. They're manually wound LeMania-based movements or purely LeMania movements. They have tritium on the dial. They're matte. They have an acrylic crystal. They're really cool watches for, a quarter or fifth of the price of an equivalent Heuer from the late 1960s, 1970s. They're really cool watches.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's interesting too, because usually when you come across like a tribute watch or like a reissue, more oftentimes than not, there's like either a visual or like a physical change, i.e. the size of the case, for example. Like you look like the tribute to 3705 that I have from IWC grew from 39 to 41 millimeters, or just updates. Like I was actually talking to Kenan this morning about the datograph, and that was 39 originally, and now it's whatever, 41.9 or whatever. But this watch from 96 is the original spec from the 60s, which is cool. It's 36.5 millimeters. I think some people call it 36, some people call it 37. It's the exact same thickness. And so I'm excited about that because I wanted that smaller size.
There's also a cool story behind the kind of origins of the watch. I mean, it doesn't say Carrera on it.
Oh, I love this story.
And there's a cool story behind that. But also, this is before brands. This is 25 years before brands had really popularized reissues or vintage, modern interpretations on vintage design. This is way ahead of its time, and I think that's really cool. I mean, if you think about it, that watch came out when the original 3705 came out.
Yeah,
for example.
Yeah,
and now there's a tribute to the original 3705 because it's old enough, and that was 10 years ago.
You know what's interesting? I've told the story before about the 3705. The original had a Valjoux 7750, which I mentioned earlier in the Portofino chronograph. So I have the movement from the original 3705, but then I have the reissue of the 3705. I'm not really a movement guy, but what I do know is LeMania, incredibly famous, obviously, for chronographs and things such as Patek using LeMania-based movements and things of that nature. So that feels kind of special in that sense. And I'm working on a special strap for this watch already. The irony behind all of this is that I've sourced it from Analog Shift. And I think I reached out to you, Wes, very briefly on it. Eric Wind. I put some feelers out, Raymond obviously being another. And when I texted Lambden, he literally sent me a photo of his desk. He had gotten the watch that morning. It's box, papers, receipt, hang tag, like the whole kit. And but the chronograph seconds hand was lining up at like a half a second. So it was just off kilter from 12. So Thomas, shout out Thomas TC, sent it in to get that realigned. So I haven't paid for the watch yet, but it's got my name on it. When it's done, I'm buying it. We just haven't done the transaction yet. And so that's on its way.
He's a dear friend of yours too, right? So it's nice to get it.
Yeah. Well, both Thomas and Lambden. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. There's definitely a common denominator that we all probably connected in New York, Analog being involved in some capacity. I, of course, was with Analog for many years. I thought it was funny that you had sent me this, that James had sent you this photo, and I'm like, that's your watch, first of all. But also, as someone who has been kind of a long-time friend of James, it's your first Analog Shift piece.
Yeah, that I've bought, right? Yeah. Ironically, I've sold them some watches, but I've never bought one. But and then Thomas, of course, was kind of my old neighbor. Like, he used to live 2 blocks from me, which is kind of crazy. Like, before he was before even Worn and Wound, he was my neighbor, and we got beers and met up. It was cool. So yeah, that's the watch that's making its way, which is also kind of cool because Rolex is now out of Formula One and Tag is in. So sort of interesting. Wes, do you know the story as to why Carrera is not on the dial on the reissue?
You told it to me.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. I mean, you can rehash it if you want, but
well, I mean, for those listening at home, it doesn't say Carrera, mainly because Tag was concerned that Porsche would sue them for using Carrera, which is ironic now because they have such a close relationship with Porsche. But I just love the fact that it doesn't say Carrera. Visually, I think I would prefer it saying it, but I can't decide if I like that it's not on there more than I would visually. You know what I mean?
I think it's a cool part of the story
I
for
think
that
so
particular
too.
watch in that particular era.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. All right, hot takes, cars, watches, and if you don't have one, fine. But what's a hot take that you've got, Wes?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just had a conversation with a client earlier today who's a friend, and my hot take for today is that you should be very careful of buying into the hype of any market. And I see this going on. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not part of it, like selling watches. We all kind of try to sell things that are selling easily. But if you're really looking for something that you want to keep forever, and you're seeing a lot of those things being sold in the market, like Piaget stone dials, for instance, a lot of these markets that are smaller, like the watch market, are very cyclical. And I do think that if you're very concerned about value retention, you should just be patient and kind of wait for a cycle to maybe end, and just see what happens, right? Like right now, for instance, Zenith Daytonas are like probably the best value buy in Rolex, because Rolex has been a little bit, I would say, selling a little slower than it was in years past, and it's picking up more. Those are unbelievable value. And I think gold watches are doing well right now because the price of gold is moving up, but there's good value in like single quickset day dates, double quickset day dates, older ones, because they trade for, let's say, 60% of the price of a modern one, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm always looking at relative value in the market. Of course, there are some folks that aren't so concerned with that. They might just want to buy the absolute top condition piece, and that's always going to help protect your value. But just be careful about the hype too.
So don't be opportunistic.
Yeah, I think we saw the kind of pinnacle of that in 2021, 2022. I think you would both agree with this, particularly Wes as a fellow dealer. If you're buying something that of course, there's money could be a concern and is a factor. But if you're buying something you truly love and are passionate about, this sounds almost corny at this point, but you're not going to lose if it's something that you really, really like and you're going to wear. And if it's vintage and in, as you also said, excellent condition to kind of protect your investment, it is you're going to be okay. If you're buying great condition and it's something you love, you're not really going to lose. I would say case in point, and again, I'm a dealer and I do this for a living, but this pole router that I'm wearing is an exceptional example that I bought because I had been chasing one for many years, and in the last 2 years, I have seen pole routers go nuts, and I think rightfully so, because there's a lot of $1,000 eBay pole routers that are worth $1,000 for a reason, and there's $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 pull routers that are, tropical and et cetera, and have an unpolished case, et cetera. And those are worth that for a good reason. And we've kind of seen this, we were talking about pull routers just a few weeks ago.
You have to buy condition, of course. I'm holding a pull router that took me a year to source. This is a rose gold, unpolished, no date pull router. Very good client was asking me for this for a year.
Yeah.
And I just found it last week. So I think collectors aren't selling pull routers right now. They're all holding the really best ones. And, of course, the relaunch of the brand is it's helping pricing move upward into a space where it probably should be anyways, because the quality of the movements is incredible. They're watches that deserve more attention. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
No, isn't the history of wasn't that sort of a pilot's watch?
Yeah, it was
or like a travel watch because of the poles being magnetized or something.
Yes, it was to kind of commemorate a flight from, I should know this as a bit of a pull router junkie myself, from Copenhagen to Los Angeles, I believe. And they claimed at the time some anti-magnetic properties to go over the pole, the North Pole.
It. I love your watch on a black strap as an idea of like a black tie watch. Like this
is my dress watch. I've always thought it was a little funny to have a dress watch be like the expensive one that you rarely wear. I think that should be more of your daily watch that you, for the same reason that I was going to circle back on something you said earlier, Wes, about my daily driver would be your 997 Turbo. To me, that's a daily driver. So I'm going to start giving you a little bit harder of a time on that one. But
so
this is
Raymond's coming out. That's 3 hot takes then.
You're beating me on this.
I didn't even remember we were on hot takes. That's real. But this is a watch that I put on a dark brown, I think it's a Shell number 8. Yeah. And then I have a period buckle for it. And this is my dress watch. No date. It's great, but I prefer it on a bracelet for kind of daily wear.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I think, spending money just to have it sit is no fun, right?
Yeah. For years, my my grandfather, very very humble origins, and he's no longer with us, but he didn't leave it for me, but it was kind of found. He had this quartz Seiko from clearly plated kind of TV case, champagne dial, quartz, probably a $40 watch, and he left that that was just found, and I have it now, and that was my dress watch for years because it's just a little gold kind of time only quartz piece, and that was kind of a fun dress watch to wear.
Yeah. Caravelle Sea Hunter that I love so much, by the way.
That's a keeper. I had I have 2. I have the automatic and then the manual. So the manual being a little bit larger case size and the smaller one being the automatic, I still find that to be, that's another really good example of a watch that I've been kind of very passionate about for probably closing in on 10 years now. And they were a couple $100, and now those automatics with the gloss dial and the bracelet and everything that is the only fully Swiss made. For those listening that don't know, Caravelle is a subsidiary brand of Bulova, or was. Think of it as Tudor to Rolex, Caravelle to Bulova, and this Caravelle Sea Hunter had an automatic ETA movement, the same that you'd find in a Tudor or a Doxa from the era, and it was the only one produced fully in Switzerland. And this is a watch that I hunted for many, many years and found one just a few years ago. It does not fit my wrist, so I have never worn it, but I'm happy to have it in my personal collection. Very, very cool watch. And again, I just love these things, and I've watched them kind of go a little crazy. I mean, like 4x what they used to be.
Wow.
Which, if you were to think about that in terms of another diver from the era, just say like a sub, that would be like a $12,000 Submariner being all of a sudden, 40, 50 grand.
Wow.
Which has not happened.
My hot take is automotive related, and that is, I can't think of a single car I would want to buy that's been released in the last 5 years as a new car. Like, I just think the modern car market is just producing garbage. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Ferrari has produced the 296, by all accounts, drives incredibly, performs extremely well. I don't love the look of it personally. It's not bad, right? But like, I'd much rather have a 458 or even a 488. I mean, a 488 Pista, again, by all accounts, is incredible, but that's more than 5 years old. So like, I really feel like this is just something that's just A, preposterous. B, I don't know if it comes down to regulations, and fuel economy and safety issues and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even going to talk about EVs. Those are computers. They're not cars. I just so maybe that's another hot take. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of depressed at this point with brand new cars. And I don't know. That's my hot take, is that we need better new cars.
I agree with you fully. I just don't know if it's going to turn around, right? Like, I think Porsche might be the only brand that's making really high quality cars right now. I've heard that Ferrari production quality has really gone down.
Margin.
I see like essentially the early 2000s, mid to late 2000s is kind of like the golden era of car production. And then, of course, when you become more digitized, having more technology in a car is not a good thing. And it's stuff that's not going to age well. So these cars that are like the last of the manuals, their last really solid production quality, those are just going to be like the end of this thing that we're so into. It might just be it. I hope it's not the case, but I look at the F80 M3 as like maybe the last collectible M car from BMW with a manual transmission, maybe the M2, the G80 M3. I just can't see that being a collectible car.
I was standing by one about 2 hours ago, and I know they're very capable cars. They're very well rounded, very well sorted. The manual, I think, only being available with rear-wheel drive, and then you get the automatic with a four-wheel drive. But they're massive cars. They're really, my 87 5 Series is smaller in every possible measurement, and it's just a very big, heavy car. I haven't driven one, so there's, of course, that. But I would agree totally. I mean, that's a hot take I have written down here. I was just showing Wesley, as you were mentioning modern cars. Like I said, I wrote this probably would be the hottest take. I wrote modern watches, but also modern cars. I do think Porsche is making incredibly high quality stuff. I recently rode in a friend's ST, which I think is a delight on so many levels, and I could go really, really deep into that. But I'll just say that is a modern car that, of course, I have a desire for. I do think a lot of Porsches being made are really excellent. Look at an ND Miata. That's a pretty hard car to criticize. I think there's a few of those, your GR Toyota products. But other than that, I mean, there's really nothing I'm interested in that's modern. And it's almost relieving, because now I can focus. Like, I know that there's nothing I have to, I don't have to leave a door cracked for something that might come along. I can just look backwards, which is fine. And maybe some people would call that antiquated. But I can look backwards and be like, let's see what I really like here. What's going to work in my life? And that's kind of how I think a lot of us settled on a 997.
That's a really good point. I love that point you made, because I think a lot of people struggle with this mental issue of like, oh, there might be something better. The grass is always greener for a lot of folks.
Sure.
I see it happen in the watch market, of course, but it's kind of nice to know that you got the thing that you actually really wanted. And I just think that if we take good care of these cars that we love so much, they'll last for a very long time. And it's a nice way to appreciate something, because it's a little bit fleeting. And I feel the same way about vintage watches as well.
Yeah. Let's jump on to what's for sale. You got anything on the chopping block, Wes?
I have sold a couple of like personal watches in the last few years, things I was testing and ended up not really falling in love with long term. I think my personal collection is pretty set for a bit. I am looking for, a Patek, maybe like a 3796 in platinum, but not really in a rush to find one. And there's a handful of things that I'm just kind of like waiting for the right example to pop up, and maybe do like one watch a year for the next few years. My inventory is really just the main focus right now. Try to place the watches in the right homes. And it's interesting. Sometimes I have a watch that I feel like actually needs a good home. For instance, I have a really beautiful Omega Seamaster 300 big triangle right now that has the sword hands, excuse me, that were similar to the Mill Sub. I believe the watch to be unpolished. It has papers from Hong Kong, an archive extract from Hong Kong from 1968. That watch has a lot of attention right now. And I've had some folks reach out that I don't even think would be good custodians for the watch. And I'm just trying to place it in the right home. It's a piece that deserves to be in a loving home.
That's really cool. I mean, and to know that you do have the autonomy to make those types of decisions is also cool. For the 3796, bling or no bling?
I'm wearing a Platinum 3796 right now. This just was sourced for a client, and it has diamonds on the dial. Pulled it out of Japan, and yeah, it's one that has the cream dial, not the brush dial, and I really prefer the cream dial on these pieces. It kind
Nice.
of raises the signature a little bit if you look at it with a loop.
I agree. It does. I saw that 300 that you posted very recently, and I think that's an outstanding watch. I think that they are quite a bit more uncommon than your equivalent divers from the era from other well-known brands. And you know, for what you'd get into one of those watches from said other brand with sword hands, you're deep into the six figures. I think that that's a really cool watch, and we've talked about those before.
Yeah.
I think they're really, really cool. I'd like to have one of those.
Yeah, they're criminally undervalued, right?
I
If you
think
think
so.
about like a matte dial Rolex, how is that so depressed right now in the market? To
It
be
is.
totally,
Gilt too.
it had to do with the Speedmaster scandal, that Speedmaster that sold for about $3 million, that got kind of chopped up in the press. But you know, Omega's archive system is not currently in working order, so I kind of expect them to come back and offer something, but not really sure what's going on there.
And they will. They'll have to remedy. They'll have to remedy this in the best way possible, and I'm sure they're putting their heads together to figure out how they can do that. But you know, existing pieces like that with archives are, you know, good to see. But yeah, Matt. I would say matte divers from Rolex and Gilt are just softer. Like there was a moment 10 years ago when subs were it, and it was kind of before 1675s, and you know, Daytona's always had a lot of value and probably were roughly where they are now 10 years ago, but subs were awful lot higher. I mean, Gilt subs were, oh God, 50 to 100% more than they cost now.
Wow.
And I think that, you know, very, very serious collectors know that and are holding really, really good ones. And they don't trade hands a lot. Like, you know, kind of like what you're saying about pull routers, people are clearly hanging on to them. And
Sure.
I think matte subs are what they were 10 years ago, and they're great value. Maybe not 10 years ago, but 8 years ago.
Right. And look, like I said earlier today, I had a conversation where a client's kind of listed 5 watches, and she was looking at like a stone dial Patek and a stone dial Rolex. And I told her, like, buy the date 8, you know, single quick set first, or buy the Zenith Daytona first, because they're just undervalued right now in general compared to the rest of the market.
Raymond, you selling anything?
Oh yeah, always. Always entertaining selling. The aforementioned modern sub that I have, I'm always like, you know, it's so not me. It's a reference and a era that I just don't particularly care for, but it is a watch that I've bonded with over 7-8 years. I always kind of go back and forth. I did sell it once. I think I've told you both the story. Bought it back less than a week later for a loss. That was a mistake. Always kind of teetering on the fence with that one. But yeah, I have a few inexpensive pieces that I've kind of accumulated over the years. I say inexpensive relative to the grand scheme of vintage watches that I deal in. I'm under no impression that spending $1,000 on a watch isn't ridiculous for the, you know, broader audience. So I have a few of those, and then there's the sub, and I'm kind of considering getting out of that GX, you know, and allocating those funds towards something that's maybe 2-wheel drive and has 3 pedals.
Nice. I am not selling anything as of right now that I can think of. That's not entirely true. It's just cars
You're
and
selling
watches.
clothes constantly.
Yeah. I'm selling. Well, yeah. For Standard H is selling stuff, but I think for me personally, I actually have been selling some clothes. So what's funny, as you both are more than aware, we're expecting in May, and I've got to make room in certain closets in preparation of this kid. So I've been moving, shaking, twisting, and making room, all kinds of things, and then just like even just spring cleaning the closet. Really, sold some loafers on eBay a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't wearing. Yeah, just things like that, just like little odds and ends, and then clearing out the closet, that not even selling, just donating really to make room for that. But yeah, last year was the big, watch sale in preparation for the Longa. It was 6 watches moved last year. So, well, I guess a year and a half. It was like fall of 23 to spring of 24 was the fire sale, so to speak. But that's all I got for now. All right. So just to put a button on this conversation, we want to wrap this up with sort of outside of cars and watches, AKA somewhat of a cultural recommendation. It could be a podcast, book, show, etc. Wes, what have you been into?
Yeah, so I just started reading a book called Buy Back Your Time. No pun intended, I guess, but it's by Dan Martell. And a very nice client of mine actually just shipped me this book. He's an entrepreneur, and he just said, I think this book can help you a lot, because I've really been thinking a lot about how to kind of maximize my time and, just get organized, because selling watches is a real logistical challenge, and put a lot of standard operating procedures in order in the last 6 months, just to create more efficiency in my business and try to create a little bit of free time as well.
Sure. Yeah. 4-Hour Work Week was another one that I read. I don't know.
It's Tim Ferriss, right?
15 years ago by Tim Ferriss. Yeah, it was.
It's a great book.
The extreme Cliff's Notes would be, if you could pay somebody else to do it for cheaper than you'd pay yourself, it's not worth your time. So I haven't washed my car in 15 years because somebody else can do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I would take 2 hours to do the same job because they've got 3 guys working on the car at once.
Cool.
So anyway.
Yeah, culture recommendation. Best thing I came up with was, I don't know if this qualifies as a culture recommendation, but I recently saw, it was actually just a movie maybe a month ago. It was called A Complete Unknown, and it was Timothy Chalamet's portrayal of Bob Dylan, and I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, it's good. Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
Music nut. I mean, for me, as far as interests, hobbies go, music. Another thing that we all 3 bond on and have, we went to concerts, we've been to a bunch of concerts together. Wes Wynn, that I'm looking at, is, has been in bands and worked in the music industry.
He serenaded us in his kitchen.
He did. Yes. 9 months ago. And I'm looking forward to the next time that happens.
Yeah. Standard operating procedure, just like I said.
If you go to Rhode Island, you get a kitchen performance by Wes Wynn.
And it was a fantastic film. I really always like kind of music-based movies and films. I mean, there was Star Wars Born, which I thought was tremendous, and that obviously got a lot of public praise and critical praise. Sure. Critically praised, I'm sorry. Walk the Line. There was a small indie with Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo called Begin Again. Anything music in a film I thought was great, and this was a particularly good one. Highly recommended. If you're kind of been curious about Bob Dylan or kind of unaware of Bob Dylan, I think it's a really, really great film to go and see.
Nice. Well, I'm sure many listening have already heard it, and if they're not, they're probably in the middle of it, and that's that Acquired podcast about Rolex, which I consider to be a book on tape. It's not even a podcast. It's 5 freaking hours long. It took me all week this week to listen to it. I literally listened to it Monday through Friday. It took me 5 days to get through it. However, it's very good. They go to the nth degree in their research. Highly respect the approach. It's great. And if you don't know the ins and outs and the story and the history of the brand Rolex, then you're in for a ride, and maybe that ride will last you a week.
There was Ben Clymer of Hodinkee did a podcast on Rolex. I can't remember whose podcast it was. It wasn't a Hodinkee podcast. It was another one, and it was probably 2, maybe 3 years ago, and it was like a good hour and a half, 2 hours long. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
No.
Does it ring a bell? That was pretty in depth, so I'd be curious to see how much deeper this one goes. But 5 hours happens to be my exact commute from LA to Mammoth, which I do every couple weekends. So that's going to be perfect for a one-way.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, totally. As a result of hearing it, they mention Porsche a ton in this conversation and in this episode. So it turns out, and you'll find out, Raymond, at the end of this episode, they recommend listening to their episode on Porsche. And a while back, I had heard one on Hermes that they did, which was really great. It's not 5 hours long. But so I just started almost immediately after, and then I had to cut it off. They did an episode on Porsche, and it features none other than previous Standard H podcast guest and friend of Raymond's, because we saw him this morning, is Doug DeMuro. He's
really?
like the third member of this podcast on Acquired. So it's
no way.
It's Ben and forgive me, I think his name is David is the other host. I can't remember. Anyway, Ben and David and then Doug. So I think I'm about 20 minutes into that one, and it's great. It's
Maybe I'll listen to that one first.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like
if they recommend
an
it
hour
anyway.
and some change, maybe 2 hours. I can't remember. It's far from 5, that's for sure. But well, gents, what else? I mean, that's all I have in mind for this kind of series, the Standard H Roundtable, where, you know, obviously far less of an interview and more of just that, a roundtable. So, do you guys want to add anything else?
No, this is fun.
Come back to Rhode Island this summer, play some golf.
Oh man, I would love that. Once the baby's born, it's going to be tough, but maybe a few months in, I could maybe jump on an airplane for 3 days.
End of summer.
Yeah, I think that sounds epic.
Yeah, end of August, maybe Labor Day, sometime around then. It's always a great time in the Northeast, particularly in New England.
Regardless, Wes, you need to say hi to your folks for both Raymond and me.
I will. They love you
also, yeah, so everyone listening, thank you so much for your time. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to make many more. Would love the feedback. Please DM me or email me or whatever you want. Just let us know if you like this format. You can find Wes at Collector's Corner New York. Is that right? Or Collector's Corner NY, I guess, is your handle.
Yep. Collectors Corner NY on Instagram, collectorscornerny.com, or you can call it CCNY to abbreviate.
Sure. If you Google that, you'll certainly find it. Raymond's over at Oliver and Clark primarily.
Indeed.
In the videos, you're kind of the face of the company, which is kind of cool.
Something like that.
Your wrist is very beautiful, man.
Yeah. There's a particular tattoo that you know that if they're advertising a watch, it's Raymond's wrist.
Yeah.
So he's the face and the hairy arm of Oliver and Clark.
There's been some funny comments on the arm hair, actually. And that extends back to my time at Analog as well. There's some really funny ones.
Oh, that's funny. Mine's like this wispy blonde hair. So it's like if I take a photo in the sunlight, it's just like I got to delete the hairs. I actually go and edit my hair out sometimes. It gets kind of squirrely.
Mine gets our very talented creative director over at Oliver and Clark, Chris, does edit part of my hair off of the watches for every single photo on every single listing, and I thank him for that.
That's great.
It just covers the bracelet or strap.
All right, boys. Well, this is it. Thank you for taking the time yourselves. Raymond, it's great to see you and have you down here. I appreciate you making the trip. Enjoyed Cars and Coffee this morning.
It was great. Yeah.
Wes, thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a blast.
All right, we'll catch up soon. This brings us to the end of this Standard H Roundtable. Please help spread the word by sharing these episodes, and if you'd be so kind, please rate the show on the platform of your choice, as it'll help others discover the series. Huge thank you to Mars Motel for providing the theme track, as well as to all of you for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other.